Hey everyone, it's Kim's Tectonic here. I'm going to do a recap on these blower motors. The direct drive ones, as you can see, this is considered the direct drive blower motor, not belt driven. And the reason I'm going to do this again, I'm kind of going to go through on how to change one of these. And I had a lot of people on my last video saying, well, the motor speeds up if you block, put some back pressure in front of the fan, and if you don't, you're going to burn up the motor. That was my point of trying to show you, and I'll explain how and why you'll burn up the motor. But I'm going to go through on how to change one of these, replace the motor, and tell you how to read the specifics on the motor and why it's important to block the front so that your amps aren't too high. And if you're wondering why your motor gets hot and stops, and then when it cools off it runs again, then that'll be the reason. So stay with me, and I'm going to show you real quick how to change out the motor and what the reason is behind blocking the fan blade. Because normally when you got these in a furnace, you don't have to do that, because the heat exchanger in your furnace is what's blocking the airflow. That's the back pressure. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, well, for starters, you want to flip it motor side up, and go ahead and remove the 3 screws holding your belly band to the housing. Now you want to turn it up on its side, and inside of this there'll be a set screw. It's usually 5/16. You want to loosen that. Don't take it out, just back it off 3 or 4 turns. And a lot of times, if you sand that shaft with some emery cloth, clean it up real good, because you might have a fight trying to get that wheel off. I recommend taking a couple blocks. If you happen to have something like that, you're usually in somebody's basement when you do this, but if you set up a couple blocks, and you're usually on a concrete floor or wherever, then you're going to take this, you're going to set this up on them blocks. Make sure you're not on the motor bracket. There you go. Well, the motor come right out of that one. Now normally, if you set that up on a couple blocks, like I was saying, if you can't get that motor to drop out, you'll set this up on a couple blocks and make sure you're not sitting on the bracket. You'll take something smaller than the shaft, because now your motor's off the ground. You'll take a hammer and you get in the center of that shaft, and you'll tunk this down, and then you should drive the shaft right through the blower wheel. That's the easiest way if they're stuck and hung up to get them out. Like I said, you might want to clean the shaft up good with sandpaper and stuff to make sure you got a nice shaft without a bunch of corrosion on it. That's what you do if they're stuck. Fortunately, we got lucky. That don't usually happen. Now, this is the time you can clean your wheel, because you can take out these 2 screws, top and bottom. And there might be one in the back here, but this section right here will remove, and your whole wheel will come right out of there if you need to clean your blower wheel. That's the good time to do it. So with that being said, let's get into the motor. Now this, I call them belly bands. Now, on here you'll have the motor specs, what you want to look at if you're changing out a motor, because you want to make sure that it matches the old one. As far as RPM goes, this one's 1100 RPM. It's a 3/4 horse. Now you might be able to go a little bit more horsepower, but you don't want to go under, or you'll probably have problems. And the amps are on here, which is, it says it's 10.0 amps, and we'll get into why that's important. It's a 115 volt motor, and its rotation is clockwise, which means it's pointing this way, so the shaft spins clockwise, looking down at the motor. Now this one here says it takes a 10 MFD, which is a microfit, and that's 370 VAC. So that's what they have on here. If you can read it, it's 10 UF 370. So it's got the proper capacitor on it, and it looks like one of the wires came off, so we'll have to tend to that. But anyways, and then you can get into your speeds, which normally, I don't have another one right here. Normally on any motor, speeds, if you can see on here, they got them kind of marked: red, yellow. Your white's your common usually, and then you got a black. Well, the black is always high speed on your motor. Here's your common over here. I don't think this is a white. This is white, this is black. So this is common, and this is black, which is high speed. And then it goes down from there. Blue is always usually medium. Red is always usually low. Now on this one it has a yellow. That could be medium low or medium high. It could be anything. But this one don't tell you on the specs. Or does it? Yeah, see, and yes it does. So on here it says red is low. Yellow is medium low. Blue is medium high. Black is high. And your white is your line, and your other line can be any speed. So basically your common is your white. And then always usually the two browns coming out of the motor are for the capacitor. So let's go ahead and go from there. And this belly band is important where you strap it. Usually you're all right if you go about dead center. This one was a little bit off, so we're gonna probably slide this a little bit farther this way. And then it blocks all your specs on your motor, so you might want to make sure you write them down, because you won't be able to see them once you put your belly band on. These caps here are usually oilers, so when you install the motor, if it has self oilers, always make sure that when this motor gets installed that the oilers are going to be facing up. With that being said, now we'll go ahead and put it back together after we move this belly band up. Okay, now I went ahead and fixed this, put a new end on that for the capacitor, put a new stake on it. Now here's an example. I was just going to show you an example of one of the newer motors that comes with the ears. The belly band basically already built into the motor. So in that case, and this one doesn't have any oilers, but in that case you would just slip it in here like so, and then this one wouldn't work, obviously. This one wouldn't work because the drum is too big. Because you can see the drum's too big, and there's no place, you could barely get it mounted. So this is an older, come out of a really old furnace. So, but most of them are coming this way now, and with no oilers. So, but there's your specs. As you can see, this one here was a 3/4 horse, 115 volt, 10.40 amps. Rotation was the same clockwise. Capacitor is a 25, which is fairly larger than usual. And this motor was a 1075, so it wouldn't match up very well anyways. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that. So we'll go ahead and put this one back in. So we went ahead and taped all these wires together so that it wasn't such a mess. And like I said, I got them all hooked up. I'm only going to use black, high, and medium on this one, so I ain't worried about them other ones. So, and you just got to loosen up that belly band and slide this off if you want to replace the motor. So I wasn't going to go through all that. So normally this is going to be sitting on this to be blowing. So I'm going to want my oilers facing this direction. More likely up this. Yeah, I'd say more this way probably. Probably about right in here. Just get the slip down in there. And let's see. Got bent a little bit, but it should line up. We'll go ahead and stick these in. Well, we want to put this ground if it'll reach to one of the mounting screws. That way your motor's grounded to the housing. I got one over here. It'll line up. Now I was gonna adjust that belly band because this motor's sticking out too far. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this back out, slide the belly band more towards the center of the motor. They had it wrong. I'm gonna fix that. All right, so I moved the belly band higher up. And this is white wire they're giving me fits, keeps wanting to come off. I don't know why. Oh shit. Now it broke right off. No, that broke right off. So that wire broke right off. So we'll have to change that in because that's the common to the motor. So that's going to have to be changed. These ended up falling out right on the bracket, which is not probably good. It's going to have to be a small one to fit in there. So we'll have to deal with that. So let me find a clip for that. But as you can see, I slid the belly band a little bit so the motor sets a little farther in, which is better. You don't want the wheel hanging out at the very end of the shaft. So I got most of the stuff taped together so it's a little easier to work with. Put the new end on for the capacitor and made sure it was grounded. And the oilers will be facing up because this thing will be being used with this part down for blowing. So let's go ahead now. Let me find a stake on for that. I had to find the right one for that. It's a small size instead of the regular, but we're gonna go ahead and put some tape around this because I want to make sure that this one don't come off. I don't want to short out on nothing. I'm gonna plug it in here. And now I want to tape these to this if possible because they keep wanting to come off. Just put a zip tie around, but probably could just put a zip tie on here. Let's give them a little play. All right, let's set this up so I can explain to you why it matters. First off, make sure this blower wheel is centered so it don't hit either side. You may have to turn your shaft. You have to turn your shaft so that the set screw ends up in the on the flat spot of the shaft. And then make sure your wheel's centered, and then you can tighten this down. Make sure it's on the flat spot, because I'm telling you, if you don't, the next guy that comes to try to work on it, that puts a burr on the shaft of the motor, and it just makes it harder to get that wheel off. So make sure that you look at that and make sure it's on the flat spot. So now it spins good and free, ain't hitting nothing, got the same clearance on both sides. And as you can see, when you tilt this up, I'm going to tilt this up to run it like that. We'll put this brick behind it so it don't take off on us, because they do have a lot of torque. And I want to make sure you can see the meter. So I'm going to get my alligators hooked up here. We're going to hook it up white to common. I'm going to hook it up on high speed. And we're going to leave that one. Let's tape it off so it don't short out on nothing. Because sometimes these, when the motors are running, these extra speed wires that are hooked to it will put out some voltage sometimes. So you got to make sure they don't touch nothing. And this ground's not that important for right now. So let's go ahead and hook this up. My meter. I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to clamp around the high speed. Clamped around high speed. Make sure you guys are getting a good look at this. All right, let's go ahead and fire it up. Now, you remember in the specs that this was maximum 10 amps. So you don't want to draw more than 10 amps, because if you do, after a long period of time, or who knows how long, there's an internal fusible, I call it a link or whatever, inside these motors. And a lot of times if the motor gets too hot, that'll break the circuit, and then you'll think you got a bad motor, but a lot of times if it cools down, it'll take off again. But it's gonna wear the motor out if you don't do it properly. So there you go. So it's running. I'm gonna go ahead and set this so we can read amps. I don't know if you can see. You already quit on me that fast. See what I'm talking about now? That's 221 amps. This motor's only rated for 10, so it's already cutting out. As soon as it cools off, it'll kick right back on. There it goes. So if we bring this down to 19, 18, 17, 16, 14, 13, 12, 11, there's 10. That's what you have to have. Anything over that is going to overheat the motor. You can see how it kept cutting out. So when you back off this blockage I have in front of the wheel here, you can see it raises up. It's raising up 13, 14, 15 the more I release it. So that's why you got to have that blockage. Don't block that blower. Try to run one of these without any metal in front of the wheel. Try to run one without any metal in front of the wheel, then that's why they'll overheat and they won't run very long. They'll just cut out. So it probably, if you've had a motor like this and you went ahead and just tried to hook it up, you probably will have that issue every time. That's why I say you have to build a blockage like this one. You have to make a blockage. See, here's your wide open here. I pretty near cut it down to about half. So I almost blocked it about half. So if you don't, that's the issue you're going to run into. That's all I'm saying. That was what I was trying to explain in my last video. That a couple people commented that, well, you know, a vacuum cleaner does the same thing. When you block the suction, it speeds up and stuff. But yeah, that's not the same. That's different. It has nothing to do with this. Them are designed for torque related as far as amps goes. They can run without suction or suction, either one, and they're not going to be drawing too many. But that's why you have to read the specs on the motor. So hopefully if that's helpful to y'all. And if you got one of these laying around, or you see them on somebody getting rid of one, it'll blow a hell of a lot faster too once you cut this in half. And you have to do that, or otherwise your motor will overheat and burn up. So there you have it. If that was helpful, I appreciate thumbs up. Appreciate all my new subscribers. Appreciate you watching. Like, give me thumbs up, subscribe. And that's all we have for today. Now, this blower will come in handy in the summertime. All I got to do is build some kind of a bracket. So if it's sitting up like this, actually my oilers are being in the wrong spot, sitting blowing like this. So usually I turn them around so that they're just blowing down close to the ground. And in that case, my oilers will be up. That way it blows kind of up. So, all right. Catch y'all on the next one. Have a great day.